Welcome to So You Think That Was Good, Do You? A podcast where we take a look back at the films from your childhood and question the absurdity of their universes. My name is Evan, and as always, I'm joined by Johnny, and they're already bloody taking the piss out of me because I fucked something up. And we're also joined by our good friend, Alex Knight. How you doing, boys?
Doing good, man.
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm
good.
Got another level of fear added because of the space. The space, you know, the space. As opposed to space. Just, you got to look out. You got to look out for them little rocks. You got to look out for aliens. You got to look out for a lot of things these days, ain't you?
Oh, well, it is a great little setup there because this week, upon Alex's request, we watched 2000's Mission to Mars, starring many people. Don Cheadle, namely. That's why we watched it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tim something? I'm going to stop here. I don't usually name actors, and now I'm trying to do it from memory, so...
Well, we've got Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah, Lieutenant Dan, isn't it? And some guy from NCIS.
Yeah.
There's a guy from NCIS in this.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that is Lieutenant Dan. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he is, actually. I've only seen a few episodes. He's got the right face.
I got to check this. I got to fact check.
Yeah, pouting, brooding. It's one of the not good ones.
Yeah. I mean, are any of them really
ever
that
watched
good?
an episode?
I've seen it in passing when it was on like random TV shows on Freeview. TV shows, TV channels. Fucking hell, here we go.
I did CSI, but only because of the guy who takes off his glasses.
That might be what I'm thinking of.
Break it down. Yeah, I think it is. Tim Robbins was the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah, not Tony Robbins though. Which I got confused
Wow,
with.
that
Tony
would be a
Robbins
different film.
From Time
Come
Team.
and have a look at this, Tony.
Oh, Tony Robbins.
We found aliens.
Off. Fuck. Off to a great start. Such professionals. We all know what we're doing, just like this entire team. Let's get started with the plot synopsis as we always do, and I'm going to try my bloody damnedest not to fuck this. The first manned mission to Mars in 2020 ends in disaster when 3 of the crew were seemingly killed, and the 4th, Luke Graham, is stranded with no way to contact Earth. Nailed that bit. Jim McConnell, Woody Blake, Phil, last name, and Terri Fisher are sent on a rescue mission to rescue any survivors and find out what happened. The team uncovers startling evidence that Mars may not be a dead planet after all. That's part of the movie. Sorry for stumbling over that last name. I looked at it, I knew I couldn't pronounce it, and I dodged it.
So that's a pro move right there.
And then you draw attention to it immediately, don't you? You tell everyone the mistake you've made and why you made it.
You don't want Twitter blowing up, do you?
Oh, you got his name wrong.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you all think you can bloody pronounce it, I'll spell it out for you and you can fucking send me a recording. Ohlmyer.
I'm going to go with Ohlmeyer.
Like the science
If only
thing.
we'd watched the film, we'd know how it's pronounced.
I wish I hadn't seen this movie, Alex. I don't mind jumping the gun right to the end right now. Yes, there we go. And, wow, without further ado, should we get into the bloody plot, boys?
Let's have it.
So good.
Well, the movie opens, quite confusingly, with a rocket taking off, but it is not our rocket. And then we are taken straight over to a party, which I think is a leaving do for all the people going to Mars. But already I felt very flustered taking the plot down because a lot is happening at this party. There's a guy trying to get laid. I think that's Nick. He's trying to use the whole I'm going to Mars thing to get into some girl's pants.
So late, Nick.
Yes. And then some of the other team, I think most of which died pretty much soon. They're joking about some baseball league they're going to have on Mars.
Funny
just
stuff.
Good party vibes. Yeah, just setting up us getting to know the characters. Don Cheadle's there. We're at his house. He's Luke Graham. We're all getting to know those characters. And then Jim, Woody, and Luke, these are our main guys for a bit now. They're having a little chat about the mission. They're having some drinks. And we learn that Jim isn't going on the mission anymore because his wife died, which he just could not wait to fucking... Yeah, everyone's having a laugh and a joke, and this guy wasn't getting involved. He was just waiting for his opportunity to say, oh, God, I wish my wife could have seen you one more time before she died, boys.
What?
You know she was meant to go on this mission,
but now
she's dead.
Down. At your send-off party, you're going to Mars for the next 4 years? My dead wife was here.
In front of all the other wives who are staying at home as well, just incepting that little thought of death that is always a possibility. She might not have died from space travel, but they should be rightly worried.
You can just die any time, it turns out.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Well, they wrap up that chat. Woody, even though he is a trained aeronautical pilot, drinks and drives home, and Luke just takes this little chance because he's replacing Jim's wife on this mission. He's just like, look, I really did want to do this, but I am sorry that the way I get to do this is because your wife died in whatever accident it was.
Yeah, I did like that. Well, I guess it's not too far from the truth, but he rolls in this electric car, doesn't he? Because it's 2020. We're in the future. It's 20 years after. I just want to know how they're having this massive barbecue during lockdown. That's what I want to know.
What is it, like COVID-3?
It's still COVID-1, I reckon, then. Because it's June 9th. They've also mourning the loss of George Floyd, R.I.P. It's his funeral that day. But yeah, this is one big bubble. That's all I'm saying. It's
sad because Jim was meant to be going on the mission with his wife, right? They trained for it.
Yeah.
She died of some unknown illness. They don't really tell you.
Yeah. No,
just that it was sudden and that she really wished she could have seen The Boys one more time.
Yeah.
The hit Amazon TV show, The Boys.
What happened in The Boys? She'll just have to wait.
She just saw season 1, yeah. Oh, cliffhanger! I hate that.
Hopefully they've got Amazon Prime in heaven.
Well, they wrap it up. They all go home, and Jim, he's pretty down about it all, if you couldn't have fucking guessed. And he takes like this little symbolic step into the sandbox that's just in his mate's garden that is like made to look a bit like how Mars would look. And this is just him saying, this is my Mars. And he puts his little footprint in there, and then he goes home.
It's crazy, right? It's weird, isn't it? If it was any other day, it would just be strange.
Yeah.
Can you imagine it? He turns up at his mate's house. It's his son's, like, fort, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Uncle Jim, what are you doing in the garden?
And everyone else has gone to bed. It's pitch black now.
Yeah.
Other people have gone home. He's just stood in his mate's back garden, squishing his foot into the sand.
You're right, Jim. Yeah, I really missed Maggie.
My wife really just wanted to see me put my foot in the sand one more time. Strong start to this movie.
Yeah.
Space.
Well, now we're jumping right in. It's 13 months later. Don't worry about any of the space travel stuff. No, not space. Mars. We're on Mars immediately, baby.
Yeah.
Never mind about all the travel, the trials and tribulations that may have occurred with how difficult it is going from one planet through an asteroid belt to another planet. We're just there. 13 months later, Cydonia.
Don Cheadle's there.
Yeah. Don
Luke
Cheadle.
and 3 people we don't need to name. Yeah. And what's of interest to them now is, I think, that they've spotted ice. Is that right?
Yeah, they see something crystalline, don't they? And they're like, if this is water and it's frozen, then that means there could be like sustainable life potentially like viable in the future because they'll have water. But I want to know how they think it's crystalline, because when they get closer to it, as we'll find out, it's metal. So whatever they're using to do it, metal, as I'm well aware, isn't made of crystals.
I just assumed it was some shitty 240p camera that they just strapped on, like a real like unregistered hypercam. You know, what is that? You see that? It could be like a car on the top.
That's got to be ice.
Yeah.
It's ice.
It has to be.
And then we cut to the world space station which I had to pause the movie and Google because I was pretty sure it wasn't called that, but I'm not a science boy. But it's not called that. It's called... Go on.
The ISS, the International Space Station.
Yes. Okay. I didn't imagine that. What, is there like a licensing issue?
Oh, I always assumed, when I was a kid, I always assumed this was set in the future. Because they go to Mars, right? Yeah. NASA did like 2.0.
Oh, they rebranded.
Well, they have actually got rid of the ISS now, or have stopped using it, haven't they? In the, like, to build a new space station, like a International Space Station. How do they even do that? Do they just send it off into space, or do they try and bring it back? It's too big to bring back, surely.
I think it comes down, and they have to crash it into the ocean.
Lovely. Just sit into, like, the trash island in the middle of the Atlantic. We'll just leave it there. It's fine.
It's like, at some point, someone will see it from a distance and think it's just ice, so everything's fine. Well, we're on the World Space Station, and the team there are communicating with the Mars team about this whole ice situation. For some reason, Jim is here, even though he made a big deal about not being able to go.
He can't go to Mars. He can be in space. He's a space boy.
But he can go to space. But we learn later that he hasn't passed any psychological tests because he refused to take them. And that's why they wouldn't let him go to Mars, but they'll let him on a fucking spaceship.
Yeah, this man who, granted, he's a good pilot, as it all turns out. That's why they're like, you're the best stick man in the world, kind of shit. Whatever a stick man is. But
that's what they rebrand pilots as in 2020, don't worry.
It's too reductionist, pilot. You need stick man.
Stick man. You gotta gender it.
But yeah, you would think that if he was going to have some kind of psychological breakdown, you wouldn't want it on a space station, let alone on a spaceship on the way to a space station.
You wouldn't be allowed to go to work, let alone get on a space station. Yeah. Stay at home, Jim. You need some help.
You need some
He's
counselling.
suffering serious emotional trauma.
Yeah.
He should not be in charge of a spaceship.
On a mission that he planned with his late wife as well. Don't you think that might be a bit triggering for him?
They're all chatting about the ice. They're all quite excited, though, apart from Jim, who is obviously thinking about his dead wife. So now the Mars team... They're taking one of the rovers they have over to what they think is an ice cap. Did you see that this rover was either manufactured or sponsored by Kawasaki?
Yeah.
Oh man, I want to talk to you about the product placement in this film.
It's mad. There's so much of it.
So glad you noticed.
Yeah, God, we get a lot. Well, obviously we get M&Ms, which are not in just one scene, but two like pivotal scenes of the movie, one setting up the other. And they use Dr. Pepper for quite an important purpose, yeah.
There's a lot of placement in this, but then for a film with $100 million budget, I reckon they're trying to fucking get as much...
Oh, yeah, for sure. They've got to recoup that.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah. The studio... Well, it was Disney, wasn't it, who did this?
Well, it was on Disney.
Yeah, I think it was Disney because of On Approach to Mars, there's... Apparently, I didn't see it, but in the trivia that it says that there's
Mickey Mouse.
It's Mickey Mouse.
I'm sorry?
What?
Yeah, there's the outline of Mickey Mouse on the planet.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. I was going to go back after I read it, and I was like, oh, God, I don't even want to see it.
I can't watch this film again. There's just no way I care that much.
Don Cheadle's War Machine. It's the prequel. It's the setup.
Well, they start scanning the rock formation that the ice cap is apparently on top of. But the machine just immediately turns off. There's clearly some sort of electromagnetic fuckery going on. And just before they can, before anyone can worry about what the right term is, a giant tornado starts to form around the rock. And everyone's as shocked as we are because they just stand there and watch it.
Yeah.
Nobody does a fucking thing.
They've got a rover not 20 feet behind them, and they just stand there watching this. I'm going to call it a sentient worm tornado. Tornado?
Perfect. Yes, we're nailing these scientific terms.
And it sort of like spirals up and then comes down, and it's like looking for people as well and sucking them up. And yeah, it gets pretty gnarly. But I mean, let's not try and know what alien technology could do. But I reckon there's better defences than a worm tornado.
Well, yeah, there's also better defence than standing there and watching the worm tornado. The only defence is having Jim come over and fucking ruin its vibe by talking about his dead wife.
My wife would have loved this, and the worm would have just been like, oh.
Mr. Worm, my wife would have loved to meet you before she died.
It's scary. It's a scary tornado.
Yeah,
it's like a weird mouth thing.
Not.
It's huge. They just stood there with like a video camera. Like,
wow, look at
this. That's big, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, big rocks just flying past them. They're like, don't worry, it's not like we've got tiny little perspex.
Yeah. That won't come back to bite one of them in the arse, will it?
Well, immediately it does, doesn't it? Because those tiny little rocks that are spinning around the giant sentient worm tornado just start nailing people. One of the characters, she had a name, but I'm not going to try and remember that right now. Her face just gets impaled, battered, mushed. One of them gets swallowed. I don't think we see what happens to him, but we assume he turns to mulch. But we fully get to see one guy get sort of levitated up into the mouth of the worm creature. He's spun around so fucking fast that he just explodes into chunks of meat. It was at this point in the movie I was like, maybe Alex was pulling my leg. Maybe this isn't actually a really good movie.
Oh, no.
Don't worry, this is the last good thing that happens.
What it reminded me of is, in like supermarkets with the coin things where you put it down.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes around the outside, and when it gets to the bottom, it gets to the bottom, it's fucking yazzing it round. That's what this man's body was like until his limbs came off.
Just a weird, scream. Everything just attaches. Then the storm immediately goes away.
Yeah. We do see Luke get buried, I think, and we're to presume he's dead.
Yeah.
But someone's got to survive,
revealed?
so... Oh, is the face revealed here? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
At the top of the rock, so the tornado disappears, we pan up, and at the top of the mountain this just occurred around, it's just a big, rocky, metal-y face.
Yeah. Which I didn't realise was the scale it was. When I saw it there, I thought it was like a small face, like in the dirt, sort of human size, like our sort of face size, but as we'll see later, it's a big boy.
Did this have some significance that I missed? Is this a reference?
I think there was a part of Mars that looked like a face. Oh my god, there's aliens! They've left a face on the planet Mars. But it was just like our cameras were so shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now the film slows down for, I think, about 15 minutes, which is a majority of the movie.
Yeah.
Because this next scene is Woody and Terri. They're husband and wife. They're at the party. They're on this mission together. They're loving all this a bit too much. And they start talking about dancing. They're getting a little bit sexy in the workplace. In the middle of the day with the door open. I didn't like it. I don't know who would like this.
They are so horny throughout the whole thing. Less so later on, but it's but he's so horny the whole time. And like you said, these are professional scientists. They must... How many millions of pounds did it cost to get them to where they are? And they're just wanting to fuck.
It was weird. Like, even before the dance, there's this bit where they're, testing, for bad scenarios with all the electronics. And they're, smushed up against the other... What are they doing? Like together, just it's very
like,
thick.
Oh, that would be a bad scenario, wouldn't
and
it?
Then it's just a bit weird.
Yeah.
And one of the guys had to sort of chastise them on the phone.
With the door open.
Oh, I'm sorry, we can't possibly come. There's some sort of catastrophic power failure.
Holding the fucking mic button.
Just fucking around. There's shit going. Very
3 people are dead.
It was weird.
Can you please come and stand too?
Well, yeah, to juxtapose that incredibly sexy scene, the next one is literally Luke's message being received by the World Space Station, with him haggard and bloody and fucked up. It's cutting in and out because an EMP has gone off or something, and he's just begging for help because everybody's fucking dead. And fucking Terri's still moist from that dance they've just done. But the power surge has fried all the computers on Mars. So now, the question is, if they even get there to save him, will he be alive? Because he's got no power. They can't contact him, so they don't even know if he survived his initial injuries. They're trying to put a plan together to get to a service. There's a load of space mumbo-jumbo as well about fuel and trajectory and...
boring spaceship.
And all that bullshit. Yes,
They do like using nonsense words coupled with real words. Similar to Rick and Morty, where they'll just input a real scientific word with some other nonsense words to make it sound more legitimate. For all I know, they could well be legitimate. But if you're doing a film for the masses, maybe don't try and swamp it full of fucking bullshit. Like,
it's a sci-fi film. It's what people are there for.
Yeah.
But that in itself is in contrast to them dumbing down International Space Station to World Space Station because they thought that might be too big a word for us. International.
Oh. Is that in a nation?
Shouldn't it be outer national? Yeah. That's confusing. Well, now Woody, who is like he's the leader, I guess. He's the one who's taking charge. He's trying to convince Ray. Don't worry, you don't have to remember that name. We're not going to mention him again.
Russian Ray.
But, yeah.
With an American armband on, though.
He was definitely not American.
It's the world. They're both in the world, Johnny. Don't worry about it.
There's a Japanese person with a Japanese flag on their arm.
Oh my god, maybe Russians will exist in this universe.
But Russian Ray.
Americans took it.
He got citizenship, so he's sticking around. His accent stuck around for sure.
Oh yeah, they're trying to convince Ray to make Jim the right seat, which like in this movie is an important, like your co-pilot is important as the left seat, which I guess is the main pilot, to go to Mars together, but Ray's not really having any of it at this point. He's like, put together an action plan, bring it back to me, and we'll go from there. He says, I want it to 0800. They say, I'll have it at 0600.
It's like a raise in poker.
Unnecessary, yeah. 8 is early enough, yeah.
Oh,
I'll be in bed then, but sure. Slipping under my door.
Yeah. They say that that Jim, they want, because they're really pushing for him to be the pilot because he's the best stick man. They said he's got more hours in Sims than anyone. I beg to differ. Florence plays Sims 4 about fucking 5 hours a day at the moment.
Well, now we forget about all the tension that was just built during whether or not Jim is going to be able to go, because Phil is sort of fucking about in one of the floaty bits of the spaceship, which doesn't seem to affect everything, just this one bit, and it's only M&Ms. So it's either there's a paperweight on everything, or M&Ms are special in this universe. But he's building a actual DNA strand just in the air. Probably taking him a few hours to put this together because it's very intricate. This cunt's done no work all day. And he said, this is the DNA of the ideal woman. I didn't even know how to break that down. Not a sentence that makes sense to me.
I mean, I'm guessing he's some kind of geneticist, but he's got it spinning as well, like the helix spinning, which like implies that he's
like a center of gravity,
like spinning on their own.
Orbiting around.
Yeah, center of gravity.
There's one larger M&M,
a bowling ball in the middle. If you leave it long enough, it's going to be like a planet.
How does he describe his perfect woman with like the 100 M&M?
I think he just meant the green M&M lady, the
God.
mascot, who's like tries to be a bit sexy.
It's those curves, mate.
If that wasn't silly enough for you, get ready for this next scene, which is just 5 minutes of people dancing in another floaty bit of the ship.
Yeah.
This is like their send-off, I suppose. It's Terri and Woody are dancing. It's pretty sexual. Jim has come upstairs just to watch, just to think about when the next time he can mention his wife is.
He's thinking about it.
Maggie would have loved this.
He's thinking about it.
I think, like, it's quite cool to point out all the wire work that they did in this was quite impressive. So they did it. They had like a fully revolving room that they built. They also had everyone on wires too, and then they had cameras revolving as well to try and sort of like simulate everything floating around, because it was pretty sick, I must say.
It's impressive.
It looked good, like everything, like the space station. It just, I don't know, obviously the money went to a good place.
Exactly, the props and that. Each suit that they put on was $100,000.
Fucking hell, just go to space.
Yeah, well, each one of the spacesuits costs $100,000 to make, but real NASA spacesuits cost between $10 and $12 million each.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 1,000 then.
No.
Jesus.
That's fucking mad. 12 million quid for a fucking spacesuit. I'll knock you one up. It can't be that
I
hard.
don't know if I want to go to space in your spacesuit.
It'd be made of wood, but...
How many times do you have to glaze glass for it to work in space?
Yeah.
Octuple glazing.
It's so heavy, it's just you're always looking at the floor.
You'll be able to breathe, but you are going to be fucking boiling.
Yeah.
Well, that's very impressive, this scene. It looks very good. It does look like they're in space. The only issue is they spent all that money and all that time doing that for a scene that does not belong in this movie. Because they have just said they have an urgent report to work on, which they cut the time limit down for themselves by 2 hours, and they're all just fucking about.
Nah, I don't need it, mate.
Do some fucking work!
He puts it over the tannoy as well. He's like, anyone interested in dance lessons, please come to the so-and-so room.
Fucking
think about poor Luke. He's got a kid at home who wants to see his father again, and you're doing fucking Roomba on a space station.
Jim's just stood in the garden with his foot on the gravel.
Yeah, I don't know, but it does kind of set the scene of like just not anyone trying to work hard for anything or any sort of urgency in any direction throughout this entire film. At no one point do they fucking run or like get a bit of a wiggle on. Nah, don't worry about it. He'll be fine. Where's he going to go?
There is a complete lack of problem solving at all. For people who are supposed to be the best in the world, it is for them. They're in a situation that are just like, we'll just put up with it then. The greatest example of that so far being standing and watching the monster attacking you. And one, which is even better, which is coming up soon, but I won't mention it yet. But it is my favourite part of this movie. Next up, they've scanned the surface of Mars where Luke is supposed to be. This is where the base camp is, and they're taking a look what's going on. They focus in on one little sector, and they see that there are 3 graves. Immediately, Terri is like, well, but Luke just couldn't bury himself, could he? Which is not the kind of fucking attitude you need right now, is it? Yeah.
Are we swearing on your podcast?
We're swearing.
What a bitch.
What a bitch, yeah. You were in for the plan just now, but because you burnt all that time dancing, now all of a sudden you don't want to go, he's dead.
Just say it.
I would say if you've got the strength to dig 3 fucking graves as well, you're probably doing all right. And obviously he's not going to bury himself if he's dead, but someone had to bury the 3, so he's clearly still fucking
no one
alive,
can bury
isn't
him.
he?
That's the point.
No one could bury him if he's dead, but if he was dead, there wouldn't be 3 graves already, would there?
But he could have dug the graves and then died, which I think was her point, if there's any logic to be found in this. But your point being, if he's well enough to dig 3 graves, he's probably okay.
I know. Was it Mars's gravity is about the third of Earth's, isn't it? Around there, I think.
Oh, pretty easy to dig a grave.
Yeah, I mean, you could swing
but
a
3,
shovel.
so that's one whole grave.
It's like
that would kill me. Yeah.
Emotionally, I wouldn't say any easier.
Well, he only had to fill 1 grave. That's the thing.
Yeah,
the other 2 are kind of
that.
like symbolic. Yeah. He just dug 2 holes and then
put
filled
them back in.
He even mentions it later.
What's the
He's like,
point?
I felt wrong just digging 1.
For context, that's because the other 2 people killed by the tornado were goop, so there was nothing to retrieve. They were absorbed by the soils of Mars. After this, so they also scan a second section, but all they get is like this weird purple feedback that's fucking with the camera, so they can't really tell what's going on there. So to take stock of this evidence, we've got 3 graves and someone making the point that the 4th one is likely dead, and the other sector, you can't even get an image. This is the evidence submitted to Ray. Ray takes a look at all this evidence. He says, all of this is inconclusive. I can't do anything with it. And then he greenlights the mission anyway. Because they wrote that dialogue and then they were like, oh shit, but the rest of the movie has to happen. Just tell him to say, go.
Hundreds of billions in taxpayer money, if it's NASA, has gone into just probably no result is coming out of this other than a body, is what the evidence is telling us. Also, I would like to point out that everything on their computer screen is voice activated, right?
Oh.
So they're saying like, oh, computer, go infrared. We're in 2023 now, and we still have mouses and keyboards. What are they expecting the world to be like in like 20 years? He's asking another man to ask a computer. You fucking ask it. Or is it like Siri, where it has to be like attuned to your voice? Computer, go infrared. It's not working for me.
Sorry,
mate.
I don't understand.
Stick your face in front of the screen.
Yeah.
Yes, and also on top of that, Ray is also allowed to go, even though there are concerns with his psychological state. Everybody ignore that. No,
Jim.
not Ray, sorry, Jim.
Yeah.
Oh, get another syllable in your name. Yeah, Jim's got the green light. Jim's doing something on his own right now. He's not concerned about this meeting or the mission or Luke or anything going on. He's sat in his room in the World Space Station and, listen carefully, watching a video of a party where all his friends are watching a video of him and his wife. So Jim is watching a video of Jim being at a party, showing everyone at that party a different video of Jim and his wife. This guy loves to kill a vibe so much he has filmed himself doing it. There are fucking 3 layers to this guy ruining vibes.
If that isn't disassociation, I don't know what is.
He's also got a camera on in the background, filming himself watching.
He'll watch that again later.
He'll take that for Luke so he doesn't feel like he's missed out on anything.
Yeah, they're really hammering that point home. She's dead. All right, we get it. But she's not really... We know that she, like, put the mission together with him, but we don't hear about any specifics about what she did. So I know he's obviously sad, but it doesn't really bear any relevance to what happens. He still does everything that he would have done.
No, I think the only reason his wife is dead is so at the end of the movie, when he does something, we're like, yeah, I guess I can get why he's doing that. He's got no one at home.
I suppose
but...
so.
What he's doing is so fucking insane that this isn't necessary. We know he's mad.
Oh, wait, I'm so excited.
That's it. Yeah, okay, let's get that. But maybe this movie is good. We're talking a lot about it. So, everybody's on board now, the separate ship to go to Mars. The mission is on. We've got Phil there, who was the guy who created the M&M DNA thing. We've got Woody, we've got Terri, his wife, and we've got Jim. That's our main 4. As they're getting ready to go into the orbit of Mars, and I quote, micrometeoroid strikes Phil as he's tapping the screen through his hand. There's blood everywhere. The team's trying to figure out what's going on. Clearly the hull has been breached, and they follow the blood through the air, and it starts getting sucked out through one bit, so they try to plug it up on the inside, but Woody realises he's got to go outside to fix the holes on the outside, obviously.
All the air's falling out.
Yeah, bearing in mind there's like a robot voice, which, by the way, is getting more and more like going to shit. It's like...
Yeah, can we talk about the robot voice? That wouldn't happen,
please? Firstly.
I've wanted to talk about this robot voice for some time. It's not good. It's not like something you'd want on a spaceship.
Boring.
It's really irritating.
This is the cutting edge of technology, and it's like...
It's pretty accurate.
You want a sexy lady voice, or you want an ominous male voice who like seems like he's going to kill you the entire time?
I'm thinking like Piers Brosnan in Simpsons House of Horror episode where he is the house.
Yeah. That everyone, again, adds to the non-urgency that everyone has. Everyone is moving so fucking slowly, right? There's Jim, for some reason, doesn't want to put his fucking helmet on. This whole scenario could be avoided if they all put on their fucking helmets. Then it doesn't matter if there's
the gas
no
is coming out.
In that space.
They don't know where the holes are, and he's like, "Don't worry about it. I got to turn the computer back on because for some reason the computer turned off. But that's the critical
for no
moment.
reason. It's never explained.
There's something else, right? When I was watching this for the first time when I was a kid, I was like, "How is touching the screen like detonated his hand?" Like, I didn't understand that. I was so confused.
I thought that this
the
time.
meteorite came through as he was like pressing the go button.
But does he give a shit about it at all?
No, he's fine. And we don't mention it again. And his spacesuit is ruptured now.
Yeah.
But don't worry about that, because it works for the rest of the movie.
But yeah, even the fucking guy on the outside, he's just slowly walking along. I know he's in space, so he's got to be a bit careful. But everyone else inside... slowly walking around, pulling themselves real slow, like they're in custard. If you're in space, there is no resistance. You could yeet yourself
tug on something. Yes.
Yeah. You could be moving, dashing around. You're about to lose atmosphere in the only fucking craft that you've got. Maybe get a wiggle on and try and plug that hole.
Not just that, but also power and your thrusters. All the oxygen is all 3 of those things. Yeah. And it is recycled and limited. You lose 20%, you've only got that 80% left for the rest of the journey. So you're already fucked. and everybody's dilly-dallying about. And the guy on the outside, Woody, who I despise throughout this entire movie,
He's a fucking
you
bellend.
can see where the oxygen is leaving. And I know that's for our benefit, but it's so blatant that he misses that last one. He's like, okay, back inside I go. Everything's fine, guys. I'm the leader. All good. And then immediately all the oxygen comes out, freezes in space, and you know it's going to line up with the thrusters, and the thrusters turn on, but we'll get there.
I think this was my favourite product placement with the Dr. Pepper, because they're trying to find a last hole to stop the oxygen getting out, right? And Jim, for the fuck's sake, still hasn't got his helmet on. For God knows reason why.
Yeah, put it on. This could all be avoided. There wouldn't be a timeline if you just put your fucking helmet on.
So there's a convenient pouch of Dr. Pepper floating around, and he squeezes it out, and the Dr. Pepper goes out the hole, right? So that Woody on the outside can find where the hole is.
Yeah.
In this meantime, the liquid is slowly drifting. There's nothing that anyone can do at this point to speed this up. Everyone's just watching slowly. Air's leaving. He's still no helmet. And he's the one that's in charge of telling Woody where the hole is.
Put a fucking helmet on.
He's like hyperventilating on the floor because he's suffocating.
Out of everyone, he should have a helmet on.
Woody's just looking for some rogue Dr. Pepper in space. It's mad. It's insane. I'm sure him not having the helmet on was a note from Dr. Pepper. I'm sure they were like, no, there must be a human who can enjoy the Dr. Pepper in the scene. He cannot look like a spaceman.
I don't want to get too much into the physics of it either, but if there was any rupture in that spaceship, the whole thing would explode, right?
Yes. Well, as soon as it depressurizes and there are 3 holes, it's gone.
It would just rip apart.
I am no scientist. I am
I
into
right?
space.
Yes, I think so.
Well, it's a pressurized container, and then there's a rupture in it. It would be like the fucking...
Man, I'm not going to argue with Gary said he's in space. If he says it's fine, it's fine.
It wasn't fine, Alex. We're about to prove that him saying it was fine was absolutely wrong.
Maybe give it a once-over.
There was a third, and might I say, largest leak from one of the main, what looked like an oxygen pipe painted in blue.
I thought it was the fuel.
I
The
thought it was
fuel
the
leak.
fuel as
Oh,
well.
well, oxygen is fuel, because obviously fuel
yeah,
doesn't
you're
work in space because you can't have combustion
You're so
because it's a vacuum.
You are clever,
No,
isn't it?
my mum was watching it with me, and she is a science teacher.
Oh, right,
so I was getting her to tell me what was happening. Why is...
Can I get your mum's take on it? Just, I don't think...
She thought it was garbage.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't think she really knows what kind of films we cover on the podcast, so she didn't know this was perfect in every single fucking way.
So,
I think she just thought, I thought this was amazing.
judging by the technology that they have on their wrists and all this other stuff, they don't have such thing as like a pressure gauge.
Well, they do have a pressure gauge because
So
they
why
use
didn't
it
the
later.
alarm go off when they were losing all of their fucking oxygen?
Because we have to assume they have to press the button for it to tell them. This is the only non-voice activated thing, and it's not automatic.
Computer,
They
are
have
we
to press
losing
the
oxygen?
button.
Sorry, mate, you do it. It doesn't listen to me.
Who set this up?
It was Jim, but he's choking to death. He refuses to put a helmet on.
Oh. Well, yes. Woody fixes up 2 of the holes. Like I said, the 3rd hole does leak, oxygen freezes, just about when they're about to turn on the thrusters to go into the orbit of Mars and start the descent, basically. There is a bit of fire from the thruster that explodes the oxygen, as it would, because it's fuel for fire, and the back half of the ship just explodes.
You would like to think that if that rear end of the shuttle is built for thrust, it would have a bit of integrity. It wouldn't blow the whole fucking thing apart. But then, I don't know. I'm not going to get into the weeds on that one.
But it does, and here we are. And the first choice everybody makes is, well, it's kind of based on something, I suppose. So we're looking for something called the Remo. Is that right? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, it's one of the satellites that they got in orbit,
Right. Okay. I
They
was
know they can't
wondering
land
where
anymore.
that came from.
right? I think it was the one that like helped them take the pictures earlier.
Yes.
When they were scanning the base.
Oh, it's SIMA, S-I-M-A.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, shit, it must be nearby because the planet's pretty small, right? There's always something.
Yeah.
Floating.
And it's definitely along the same latitude as us.
Yeah. It's not that big a planet. The chances of that are pretty high.
Do you think you'd do what they're about to do?
What, Matt Damon it?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think in that scenario, if I
think
was...
I'd take my helmet off. I do what one of them does soon. I don't see any chance of surviving this. I don't want to burn up in atmosphere. I'd just rather go now.
They know that they've got to get out of that, otherwise they're going to die. And even if they get out of that and don't hit the other thing, onto this other space satellite thing, then they're going to die anyway. So I think with everything laid out in front of me, I would have been like, all right, let's give it a go. But even then, the idea of floating through on the off chance that you fucking miss and then overshoot in the wrong direction and just floating through space, that is a fate worse than death.
I don't think that's the off chance in that scenario. I think that's the on chance.
Yeah.
The off chance is that you hit the satellite.
Yeah.
Well, yes, so they all tether themselves together. They put their spacesuits on. Jim finally acquiesces and puts his helmet on. They float out into space, and their plan is to use the oxygen in their thrusters to move towards this satellite that's orbiting Mars, because it's got some stuff on it. They can use it for re-entry.
I think it can land.
Yeah, it
Yes,
can land.
okay, there we go. It doesn't go to plan. Essentially, most of them run out of boost thrust before they get to the point of no return, and Woody's like, I've got this. He uses all his boost to shoot at the satellite, pretty damn confident that he's going to hit it, but as we've just discussed, isn't very likely, and he sort of taps the top, misses it, starts floating past towards all of Mars.
He fucked up. But critically, he did attach the line for the rest of them, so they could winch themselves.
Yes. So they do get the satellite, and this is actually quite a touching scene. This is when I was messaging you about the movie, Johnny, and I said, oh, it just got good. Because it'd been a fairly long segment of it not being
I
good.
was waiting for the bit, and I assumed it was this.
It was, yeah. And it's very touching
tense.
now.
It's tense, and they do build this, like, it's her husband, so she's like, I'm going to go after him. And they're like, no, you don't have enough. But luckily enough, they have that computer on their wrist that automatically works out trajectory for them.
Everything for them, as long as they press the button.
They're like,
if you forget to press the button, it doesn't do it
they're
for
like
you.
electronic plot machines, aren't they? They're just exposition machines.
I do want to talk about her plan,
right,
which was to take the grappler after the satellite was with the guys and to sort of thrust towards Woody with as much as she could before she had nothing, and use the grappler to get him. She uses the grappler, yeah.
Count Grappler.
It shoots, but it misses him by a foot. There's not quite enough, right?
Devastating. He's convinced. He's like, oh, this is a good plan. Oh my God, they're actually
It is a good plan.
He's already resigned to death, I think, at this point.
Oh yeah, he wanted to die straight away. But this is a good plan. She just needed more steps.
Yeah.
It finished here for her, and that was the last step. She gave up. She tried to boost forward a little bit, but that was it. All she had to do was get closer, grapple, throw the gun. Like you said, no resistance in space, and likely they're going to catch it if you throw it right, and then they grapple you.
Yeah.
This is just all I could think about when I was watching this was the fucking puzzle game where you have the wolf, the chicken, the seed, and the boat. And there's a right order to do it. You boost, you grapple, you grab, you throw, they grapple, you go. So easy.
Not even that, mate. So they say point of no return flashes up on her fucking wrist thing.
Yes.
She could have gone 90% of the way, grappled him, used 10% boost to go back, and momentum in space, no resistance, would have carried them.
Okay, I added a couple of extra steps.
That's all I was like, this is still doable.
Yeah, I'm sure
don't let him die.
Some solution. Like, why did they still have fuel?
But I guess.
Like, they could have come out down the line to her.
Yes, they did.
Unwinched it, scooted closer.
Oh, yeah, between them.
Oh, yes, the back one could have used it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Don't
They're
worry,
in a chain. They're attached.
They're all just sat on the fucking spaceship, not getting into the satellite, not getting in it. They're just sat there watching.
Shit out.
You're on the fucking clock here, mate. Terry's gone off to go and get her husband. Fucking do something, for fuck's sake. Nah, we're just going to watch and see what happens, aren't we?
He's alright. He turns out alright, right?
Well, to expedite all of this pissing around, which I'm sure was annoying him, he just takes his helmet off, which is pretty fucking baller, to be fair.
Gangster move.
I think an important thing to note here was at the beginning of the movie, when the boys were razzing around and before Jim brought up his dead wife for the first time, they joke around about Woody's buzz necklace, which he always has on. Just remember that for now, as he takes his helmet off and plummets towards the surface of Mars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I didn't even put that together. Oh, God.
Terri, she manages to make it back to the satellite. They get in it, and so begins their descent to the planet proper.
There's no space travel.
Actually, no, of course not. We do no travelling in this movie. We close our eyes and we appear. Well, it's called Mission to Mars, not Mission Through Space, guys. Yeah. Come on!
I would like to see them get to Mars, though.
Good point. Good point. They land on the planet. Luckily, they land exactly where they need to, even though they were circling the planet whilst all that piss was happening for ages. But they get to the very small mile with which this camp encompasses. They find everything is pretty much still in working order because the whole cyclone thing was a bit in the distance. There is a bit of wind for some reason, but let's ignore that.
Back at the WSS, they're talking about it as well, aren't they? So they're saying how something else has happened, because they obviously know the rocket that they were on had broken up, but then the satellite had landed, and they're like, only Jim could have done this. I posit it landed with a fucking parachute. So anyone could have fucking done this.
You actually see the parachute.
Yeah, you
do.
see
when,
the parachute.
When they touch down and they're getting out of the thing, just parachutes everywhere. And Russian Ray back home, he's like...
You son of a bitch, Jim.
But I bet you have to press a button, and somebody had to press that button.
Yeah.
Nothing just works automatically in this universe.
The micrometeorites come through. Whenever you try and do any sort of touchscreen shenanigans.
Whenever you touch a screen.
Your fucking penalty for touching buttons, meteorite through the hand.
Hands off!
This is my button. Bing!
Oh, Phil finds the ERV intact, which is, I think, the unit that produces oxygen, maybe? It doesn't matter. He's walking around. Jim is also walking around. He ventures into the actual base unit and into the greenhouse, where he finds that everything is grown really well. Luke has been there for a year, I think, by this point. But from the looks of this, it looks like he's alive. And that is confirmed almost immediately because we pan behind Jim, and Luke has a pickaxe raised just to mash his fucking brains in.
He's lost it a bit, bless him. He doesn't know whether they're real or not because he's been there for, 9 months on his own? Yeah, he struggles. He struggles. But before that, they look at their wrist to see the temperature, and it says it's 25 degrees. And I did a bit of Googling, and apparently Mars only reaches 20 degrees at its hottest.
Good work.
So fuck you, movie! Shut the fuck up!
Can't use Google. But its lowest, minus 153 degrees Celsius.
That is cold as shit.
It's got no atmosphere.
Yeah.
So it seems pretty correct.
You'd want a jumper with that, wouldn't you?
Want some Dr. Pepper?
Yeah.
I wish I had one to raise then. Oh my god, I do!
He actually does.
Oh my god! Thank you, Chloe, for never getting rid of bottles from the side of your desk.
I want to know where he got his doctorate from.
The University of Pepper. So Luke finally accepts that all his friends are alive. They calm him down a bit. Well, they explain that Woody is the reason that they made it there because he made that sacrifice, and he's like, that man, where is he? Where is Woody? And even though Woody's wife is stood in the room and was the one to share that final moment with her husband, Jim is the one to butt in to tell Luke that someone else has died because that's his favourite thing to do.
Yeah, we know, mate.
Guess who's dead?
Maggie. Correct.
No.
Old news, mate. It's my best friend. Yes. Oh, and in return, Luke tells the team about what's happened to him, about the cyclone, about the face, fucking everything that's gone on. And he also caps that off by saying he thinks he survived because the face wants him to discover the secrets. The conclusion of this is we're supposed to think he's crazy, the team thinks he's crazy, but immediately the movie disproves that by Luke showing everyone the pictures of the face and also this sort of weird sound that it emitted before the tornado happened, which was 3 separate sounds. I don't know how. It's a load of science bullshit because then they somehow link that to 3 dimensions, and this is going to be the setup for how they sort of figure out what this clue is. I blanked out here. Yeah, this is...
I'll tell you what that noise is. It's a brown noise sound with a fucking noise gate on it, is what it is. It is not the best thing that they could have done.
Been listening to this thing for the last, 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that suit that he cannot wash.
Yeah. Oh, God, I mean, it smells like
I thought it was red. I didn't realise it was brown.
Rancid balls. He doesn't look like he's been washing. He's looking a bit dishevelled.
He does need a shave.
Oh, yeah, he's unshaven at this point, yeah, and he doesn't shave until... But I think the crew brought razors for him.
Yeah, I mean, they
That must have
forgot
been
everything
on the
else,
satellite.
but they brought their fucking razors, didn't they? They're not
And the
animals.
Dr. Pepper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, of course, you shave with.
Yeah.
And then this next scene is the truest testament to the writers not having a fucking clue what was going on, because Jim spills more M&Ms, which he brought from the ruined spaceship. Oh, to be fair, they are Phil's, so Phil brought them, but he spills Phil's M&Ms on the floor, and that sequence of just subpar candy falling on the floor is enough for him to figure out that the sequence of sounds they heard is not just a sequence of sounds, but a test. And they have to play a sequence of sounds back to the mountain in order not to trigger the space tornado. Don't ask any questions. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
They fucked up. They got there the first time. They blasted it. The testing was like, well, you can't be people. What? How else is that stuff? What did they hit it with? Radiation?
With a radar gun? Yeah. It was. They were doing radar on it.
Right. Yeah, so, surely the thing would be smart enough. It would be clearly, this is man-made.
Someone is scanning me. Yes.
Or scan the people that you're about to kill. If they can make a sentient worm out of wind, scan
And
the
rocks.
people outside the fucking building.
This is a good time to touch on this, yeah. What is that technology? Why is that the response? Surely the only thing that can scan you is another sentient life form, not... What else are they expecting? Because the only opposite to that is you are not scanned. So being scanned is the ideal situation for you. So why is the response to kill them?
Maybe they wanted it... People had to be smart enough. You had to prove that you were worthy.
If you got to that planet, you got to be pretty fucking smart, yeah?
They stood there looking at that tornado.
Yeah.
That's true.
Maybe they wanted them to be human, which is the thing. They didn't want any other...
Well, we'll get to that at the end, because that cannot make sense. From what this movie ends with, that cannot be what they wanted.
About the time the sound signal thing is introduced, you're like, ooh, this is a bit kooky. What's going on here? Ooh.
Yeah, but where do you go from here? This is us sat in the writer's room. This conversation is the same one they were having. And the conclusion is, just don't worry about it. Just keep writing stuff. None of it has to mean anything.
We'll just use some
get to
made-up
the end,
words, and it'll be
that's it.
fine.
Yeah. Well, having figured out not only that the solution is to play a sound back, but also what the sound back must be, they send a rover with an automatic scanning device. It's another radiation emitter to play this sound.
It's got a doohickey on it.
Yes. And this is the only machine not operated by a button in this film. This is automatic. It plays it at the mountain. It looks for a second like it might do a tornado thing again, but everything's fine. And I think this is where the door opens and a big old light shines from inside the mountain.
Crazy.
Yeah.
They passed the test.
That the sound of exasperation.
Yeah. Congratulations. You are in fact
so,
human.
yeah.
We knew you were. We knew you were human all along, but we just wanted to kill 3 of you first.
You just had to do it twice.
Yeah, that's the real test. Perseverance.
Our main team now. So Phil stays on the ship, and Terri, Jim, and Luke all go to the mountain and just walk straight into this big white light. It closes behind them. Obviously, communication is cut off with Phil, but that's because he's not important to this movie and never has been, so I don't know why he's here. Jim...
Instant terror. That door closes.
Oh, yeah. They all realise far too late. It's loud.
Yeah.
That is a stone column closing onto stone.
Yeah, this is the bit as well where they start reading the atmosphere inside, and they say, oh, there's oxygen, there's nitrogen, hang on, it's air, And
sounds a hell of a lot like air to me.
And she was like, haven't even started like reading for like toxic substances, and he's already got his fucking gloves and helmet off.
Of course he has. He hates it being on.
Interestingly, though, each cast member had 4 people assigned to them to get their suits on and off, and it took 45 minutes, apparently. Why?
I guess there's lots of little pieces. I don't know how long it takes to get into like a real spacesuit.
Can't be that long.
Surely not long, because if there's a breach and you need to get a spacesuit on, it can't take 45 minutes.
Let's hope it's a slow air release, otherwise they're fucked.
Let's hope we've got some Dr. Pepper. Well, yeah, so Jim takes his glove off, realises that he's not killed in it instantly. They all take their helmets off, just not giving a shit anymore. And as they're doing this, another wall on the inside of the sort of space they're in opens, reveals a darker space behind.
Fuck yeah, man.
They all just walk in. In the room is just the solar system, like it's like VR, but you're in it. A hologram.
It's a
That's
green
the word
screen
I'm
room,
looking for.
Evan, is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just green.
Okay, in the film it was a hologram. In real life it was a
God.
green screen.
So green.
Is that a green screen?
Are we on camera right now? Ashton
It's
Kutcher,
pretty
get
cool.
out here.
The CGI, like, it is,
It's awesome.
Yeah.
but it's on the cusp. You know,
But
you're
for
like,
2000,
actually,
it was pretty good.
It's
Yeah, it didn't
kind of
look
passable.
too
You're like,
bad.
oh, okay.
This bit is,
Until-
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And essentially what's confusing about this is it looks like there are 2 Earths, because they both look like our planet does. But then asteroids start fucking whacking this 4th planet, wonder which one that is, and it slowly turns into Mars. We also get a very Microsoft Clippy looking alien who's just hanging about and looking sad the entire time that their planet is being destroyed. Then we see just every spacecraft on the planet. Everybody takes their personal spacecraft and leaves for another galaxy. They fucking all go. Apart from...
One.
Oh yeah, for one reason, they don't all go to the nearest habitable planet.
Yeah,
they all
next
go
door.
to literally another galaxy. But one of them does decide to go to the other planet, and it leaves it kind of up to the imagination what happens here, because the spaceship crashes, and then we get like a time lapse of the
Evolution.
ocean to amphibians to fucking lizards to... You know how evolution goes, eventually to us. It's just so confusing to me.
They kickstarted, like, animal life. They left the seed for animal life, like, all the way, like, from, like, single celled.
Yeah, multi-cellular.
Eventually,
isn't it? Yeah.
life takes its course, and
Yeah.
people are made over billions of years or whatever.
So we're all Microsoft Clippies?
Yeah,
Fucking
I mean,
alien.
the alien looks like one of the
God.
like stick men from Bug's Life,
Comes out.
which apparently is one of our descendants. So whether you believe that or not, I guess it has 2 eyes and it's sort of humanoid. But yeah, they say hundreds of millions of years ago there was like a moment where single cell organisms turned into multicellular organisms in like one big go, and this is meant to be that point.
Dawn of life, as we know it, caused by
Yeah.
alien spaceship crashing into the planet.
If there was already plants and stuff, I don't know. There's Alex, you did biology.
Yeah, plants are life.
That's already life.
Can
So that. But don't you need? But don't you need like insects and stuff for them to live?
Oh fuck yeah. Yeah. They don't all evolve separately. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, the planet
everything's interdependent.
Wouldn't have been green
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Beforehand.
But it-
yeah.
Yeah, so it was just like a dead planet.
But there was
before?
already grass and shit. There
Yeah,
was already.
it was a literal...
There's a lot of explaining over the weird time lapse, so that everyone at home just watching can understand.
Well, you have the subtitles on. In brackets it said, don't worry about this too much. You don't have to listen to this
Don't worry
part.
about it.
We're almost at the
Aliens.
the
end.
director's cut.
We're here because of aliens.
And also because of the trees that were here before the aliens.
Plot point.
I mean, really, the implication here is that life would have evolved on this planet regardless of whether or not one alien spacecraft crashed into our sea.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why all of the others fucked off. They were like, we're not needed here. Let's not interfere with this. They got their own thing going.
Yeah,
That's fine.
there was one guy who stayed behind who was like, I'm telling you, Earth's the one. Earth is the one. They need us there. And they're like, no, they'll be fine. They've already got life there. Nah. What if we can make geckos?
Also, who's recording this? Everybody has left.
I assumed it was like a model for the alien to explain to the people like what had happened. But it just also conveniently is perfect for the viewer at home.
Well, this I'll explain. And Jim, he fucking loves all of this. The others, they've got their knowledge now. They want to go. They want to get back to Earth. But Jim, he's lapping all this up. He's decided he's going to stay and just sort of gamble that a magical tube will appear and take him up to the last spaceship on the planet. So the other guys leave. Luckily, that magical tube does arrive and sucks Jim up to the spaceship. And his plan is just to go to another galaxy where all of the aliens who left before the alien who spawned you, there's absolutely no guarantee that they'll know that that alien did that. You won't be able to speak their language. And there's also no guarantee they won't just kill you on your arrival. But this is a hell of a good of a sequel setup.
The best you can hope for is that they'll experiment on you.
Yeah. What the fuck are you?
Yeah, because as far as they're concerned, the alien that's left behind is hundreds of millions of years old.
Yeah.
They've evolved.
Right?
They've forgotten.
So they're like hyper-evolved aliens. Already highly sophisticated. It makes no sense.
They're as far away from us as we are from single-celled organisms. And you think they're going to remember you?
Oh, fuck, it's Barry. Where the fuck have you been, mate?
Is it just me, or does this alien look like Barry? You remember him? 100 million years ago?
I mean, our dialect has changed dramatically in the last
like
200 years. Yeah. Imagine he turns up, he's like, all right, guys, and they're like, hello?
Without a doubt, the alien is the worst CGI.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awful.
Like, there is
Shadow of a doubt. It's dreadful.
And it is such a way to not be paid off right at the end, you know?
Yeah.
You've been watching this thing, you've had like the weird sexy dance scene in space, the zero-G dance scene. You've had the ship's exploded, now we've got to freely float over to the weird other lander CGI bit.
The unashamedly packed full promotion of products.
Yes. You didn't see that alien with a squadgy of Dr. Pepper, did you?
Oh, I wish.
He's wearing a Stone Island hoodie and a pair of Jordans. Like, there's a bit that I'd like to touch on. When he gets sucked up in the tube and he gets put into like this tank, doesn't he? And it starts filling with water and he's getting a bit panicked. I was thinking, imagine if he just drowned then. If
It's a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap.
It's another trap.
They're playing the long game and they're like, oh, he's gonna fall for it. He's gonna fall for it. He just fills with water and he drowns. But
the others are fucked up now. The aliens let them out.
Just before we get there, Terri does give Jim, before he gets in the tube, the Buck Rogers necklace. And I only had to insert this in because there is not a fucking chance that she had that necklace on her.
No.
It was on Woody
So
when
true.
he fucking died, and is now dust in the atmosphere of Mars.
he got vaporized
Oh, no,
as he
wait.
fell
I think
into
there is some
orbit.
dumb throwaway scene. He gives it to her for luck. Yeah, I think it's even when they're patching the holes on the ship.
Oh, is there?
I didn't see that. Okay.
Another reason, like, why they're not paying attention.
Yeah, prioritize.
Don't give her a kiss. Go and fix the fucking holes in this ship. What are you doing?
Get out there!
There's more pressing matters at hand.
Obviously they're getting out. They just about linked up with Phil, who kindly waited for them as well. Horrible storm coming in. He's got to go. It's now or never. His fingers on the button, a touchscreen button, with what is, I would say, the most confusing countdown sequence I've ever seen in my entire life. I assume that's what those spinning rings are. The countdown? Some weird countdown sequence in alien numbers on the floor. Everyone's supposed to be like, oh, right, this is a countdown.
Oh, yeah!
Gotta be.
I forgot about
There's
those.
not 10.
The first one spins for a long time.
I don't know,
You
man.
keep
Alien
waiting
clock.
for the second one to spin, but it's not seconds and it's not minutes. It is another objective
Mars time,
counting of time. Yeah. It's every 100 million years.
Yeah. He's like, don't worry, I'm going to wait for the spaceship to take off. He's just there until he dies of old
Everyone
age.
else pieces out. They're like, Jim, you really fucking staying? Put your helmet on. Let's go. Famously doesn't like putting a helmet on, so I understand why he didn't want to get that.
Well, it takes 45 minutes, to be fair.
Oh. And as Jim's ship leaves, the whole place just implodes. Another design flaw, I feel, that once the last spaceship leaves the base, it explodes.
Yeah.
Because what if everybody what if there's a barbecue on the other side of Mars?
A reunion.
And everybody as one guy gotta stay. One guy, every time they vote one guy, and I bet it's always the same little cuck who's gotta stay behind and watch the base, otherwise it will explode.
Barry, it's your turn again. I did it last time, the last 100 billion years.
Don't worry, we're all leaving the planet, Barry. We're all going to Earth. See you there.
Catch you there, mate. Yeah, I'll call you.
Turn your location on.
And that is, thankfully, the end of the movie, boys.
He shoots off into space.
Yeah, we do have that nice shot of the spaceship, like, coming within fucking super close distance of theirs.
Sure.
And they're like, was that him? Yes, obviously that was him.
Could not believe it.
Otherwise you've got bigger fucking problems.
Probably the only bit of real space travel you actually see in the film, right at the end.
Yeah.
The only,
And then you're left with the question, I mean, getting there was full of fucking trials. Do they even get back to the WSS?
Let's not think about that. That is not our problem. We've done our problem, which was this movie, and now it's ended. We assume they do, because... Wait, do we see a shot of Luke seeing his kid, or have I imagined that?
No.
No, it ends here. Okay, I must have dreamt that afterwards.
I would say it's a very similar ending to Dog Soldiers, the film that we did last, Alex.
Yeah,
It ends in the same way, where all the action's kind of finished, and then there's still a bit to go, but they're just like, nah, that'll do.
Now what?
Yeah.
We've reached the important, probably, bit of this podcast, even though people must tune out now, and that is the question. Alex, so you think that was good, do you?
It was awful. I'm never going to tell you it was a good film. It's just got such nostalgia factor for me. The meme factor of Don Cheadle, incredible. Just him, there's something about him being on space. On space. We're all on space. It was really good.
Deep.
Obviously, over the years I've goofed around with the headcanon. It's a prequel to The Martian, Matt Damon.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, I've got this nice little nugget that maybe it is like a War Machine prequel, which was nice. Now I know it's part of the Disney family.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say?
And Mickey Mouse was in it, which is even more incredible.
This is something I have to see.
I haven't fact-checked it. I read it, but they're usually pretty accurate. So this film was bad. So, from concept to execution, it was bad. But I wouldn't say it was awful, although it kind of was. It was all right. It was fine. They hid behind a lot of meaningless and overcomplicated aerospace terms to make it more believable, and it's almost like a crutch for exposition and plot. I would have preferred a movie more about the rescue mission, more like The Martian, really. Whereas rather than this sort of half and half with sort of no resolution, really, it was sort of left too open-ended for it to be finished, in my opinion.
It could have done without the alien.
Yeah, exactly. If it was
sure.
literally just them going to Mars, and then there was this big storm or whatever, and a few of them were killed and they had to get there, and all the other shit that happened would have made more sense if they had to then try and leave again altogether to get back to the world space station. But saying that, the props and the sets were amazing. One of the best that I've seen in probably all of the films that we've done. But then the budget fucking
did this do well?
For something like that, I guess.
Like box office wise?
They used it.
I have no idea.
No.
Of course it fucking didn't.
I think I read it in its opening, it did 20 million, and it cost 100 million to make. And I think globally it did 110.
Oh, so it didn't even break even.
No,
then,
it didn't make money. Other than that, I think the writers sort of dropped the ball quite a lot, but the direction of it was fine, and the actors did fine. It was just the story and the writing that let it down. I think it felt rushed, and they didn't really think everything through, and it sort of impacts it in that way. But I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy aspects of it, because I did, but it wasn't a good film. Evan?
Look, for a movie that pretty much opens with a Martian tornado monster, for the most part, it is criminally boring. But a movie does not have to be good for you to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I Had a bit of a blast watching the bits that I definitely enjoyed, and I've certainly had a blast talking about it.
Yeah,
Yes,
This has been a real highlight of an episode for me. So, in that context, man, it was good. But in the context of movies, to which movies should be held accountable to, oh, it's not good. There are some standout scenes, that's the thing. Where Woody is floating above Mars, it's quite dramatic, and I really enjoyed that. But it's just unfortunate that so much of it is people just hanging about on world space stations and dancing and M&Ms. But I enjoyed it, and I think that's all you can ask for, isn't it?
Yeah, there's been a lot better films than this technically that I've enjoyed less.
Absolutely.
So, Alex, I guess you kind of won us over, sort of, in the long run.
Yeah.
It was... after talking about it, like you said, Ev, I enjoyed it more than when I was watching it.
This has been great.
Quite often, like with Super Mario Brothers, a film that I held deep in my heart, after that, I'm never going to watch that film again because it is a pile of shit. But this is...
some episodes.
It's a bad film, but it's still enjoyable, which I think
absolutely.
is...
Well, is that everything then, boys?
I got a little bit of trivia.
Oh, hit me up!
All right, okay, so they created the Martian landscape in a massive sand pit near Vancouver. All right, so that's where they shot a lot of the sandy scenes.
Very Martian.
Don Cheadle's back
Well,
garden.
To get a sense of the environment and isolation, Don Cheadle slept outside by himself.
That's so much commitment for a movie he was barely in.
I don't think you're really selling it. It's not like you're method acting at that point, is it? It's not like you've actually stranded yourself on Mars.
No. You don't really have to get in that mindset too much. I read somewhere that they used over 14,000 gallons of paint to spray all the sand.
It wasn't even red.
Fuck, that can't be good for the environment.
No. So they physically had to spray the sand.
But we have red sand.
Oh, yeah.
We can get that.
Yeah. No, let's go to Vancouver.
Still one of my favourites.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Alex. This has been absolutely splendid. You'll have to come on again. This has been brilliant. And thank you for listening. Please do leave us a 5-star review on the app you're listening on right now. Follow us over on Twitter and Instagram at So You Think Pod. And, we've got a good one coming up next.
Exciting time.
We'll be watching Blade, which I cannot bloody wait for. I've been wanting to do this movie for a long time, and we're finally getting to it, because I know it cannot be as good as I remember it is. It must be awful. So, until next week, goodbye.
Boy.
Bye.